11 ways to remember more quickly than the rest of the population. Let's say that you find a drug that will allow you to retain all of your experience and knowledge. And you use it whenever you wanted it. If only this were true. We learn things throughout our lives, but we don't know all things since we forget a lot of stuff. Why is this the case? How can we improve our memory and recall knowledge from our brains when we need it? To start, let's take a look at the reasons why we tend to forget. There is a certain amount of room in your brain, just as there is on a hard drive. That's why fresh knowledge is kept in the short-term memory rather than the long-term one. Consequently, if you don't recite or apply it, you'll rapidly forget it. Within an hour of learning anything new, half of what we've learned is lost. One day later, we only retain approximately 1/3 of what we've learned. So, in order to memorize everything, a method known as spaced repetition might be used. Putting knowledge into your long-term memory helps you retain it for extended periods of time. When you're memorizing a lot of new information, it's difficult for your brain to process it fast and build strong associations. It all depends on why you're learning something and how quickly you need to remember it. The first circumstance is when you need to learn something quickly, utilize it once, and then forget about it. If you've ever found yourself in a scenario where you have only one night to prepare for an exam, this video is for you. After you've learned anything, repeat it as soon as you can. The second time should be at least 15 to 20 minutes later. To relax between repeats, you don't need to go back to the material. Instead, do anything else. Your mind should be at ease. After 6 to 8 hours, repeat the subject you've just learned for the third time, then do so again 24 hours later. Try this strategy the next time you need to remember anything fast. Now, how can you keep things in your long-term memory for a long time? For long-term memory, you need to lengthen the memorization period. Here is the approach for doing so. As in the prior procedure, the first repeat should be made immediately following the learning process. It's a different story when you repeat the content after around 20 to 30 minutes. Only one day after the second repeat should the third one take place. Once you get over the first 2 to 3 weeks, you'll be able to learn for a lengthy period of time, so it doesn't get deleted. Here are 11 easy strategies that will help you remember things faster and easier. Number 11, try to grasp what you're learning. Since you've undoubtedly felt that way when you're learning something new but you don't understand what you're reading or listening to. It's not uncommon for this type of training to develop into an absolute nightmare, since it resembles studying for an exam that has no RI. You will be unable to continue studying if you forget a portion of what you are supposed to be learning, since you will not be able to comprehend it. Our recommendation is to avoid memorizing words in this manner, since you will simply retain their arrangement rather than their real meaning. When reading a piece of material, you should take the time to study it thoroughly and determine what the major point or points are. If you can, attempt to write down what you've read. If you're successful, it signifies you've grasped the concepts, and the task now becomes much simpler to retain the information in one's mind. Number 10. If you feel like you have too much on your plate, prioritize and pick what you need to know. And what you can do without, and you'll be okay. You should focus on the most significant elements of what you need to remember, rather than the less crucial details. Number 9. Serial position has a fold influence. No, this is not the time to place your Cheerios on the correct side when learning anything new. The most important information should be placed at the beginning and end of the article. Take a 15 to 20 minute break every 15 to 20 minutes if you're doing a public speak, because this is the time when concentration is at its finest and people tend to lose focus. Because of this, switching to something else like playing guitar or viewing a positive movie is your best option. Additionally, you should use caution when gaining access to material that appears to be the same. Number 8. The interference hypothesis. If you know you're about to learn something that at least resembles what you already know, we recommend taking a long rest before beginning something new. Number 7. Study the polar opposites. When learning a new language, it's best to have the two opposites in mind at the same time to develop a strong connection in your mind between the two items. This second one will serve as a reminder if you happen to forget the first. Number 6. Start building your own mental fortress. Do you recall how he could spend hours in his mental palace searching for the knowledge he needed? If you are in your room, for example, attempt to tie what you are learning to something in your room and repeat it a few times after that. and learn each chunk at a different location in your home or even in a new location in your city. Number 5. You may utilize nail words to describe the odors of locations, the individuals you met, and so on. This method's goal is to connect one piece of knowledge to another. Thus, if you need to learn the word nail, you need look for words that go with it. Number 4. Write your own stories. Even if you have to memorize a lot of information in a certain order, making a tale out of the material will help you keep track of what's intended to happen next in the story in the event. It may appear that you must do additional effort, but we assure you that it is effective. Number 3. Do you remember a tape recorder? Record the stuff you are learning and listen to a few times. The sound of your voice may take some time to get used to. Aside from the initial discomfort, this strategy is useful since it may be used for many sorts of memory tasks. Number 2. Use your eyes. After reading the information, you are able to see it with your eyes, and then you could hear it. It is easier to retain information if you are able to interact with it on a regular basis. When you're learning, it's important to imagine things and employ body language to memorize them. Number 1. Rather than relying on out-of-date textbooks and learning techniques. Nowadays, the internet can help find the most recent documents and books to boost your memorization techniques. For memorizations ideas, please don't forget to post them in the comments area below and subscribe as well. Thanks.